Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today I've got yet another boring job. 1975 YZ80 Yamaha. Let me get you over at the bench. We'll take a look at it now and then again when we're done with it. So let's get over here. Okay, let's see if we can take a look at this. It's got some staining in it, some scoring. It had some rust. I just ran a ball hone through it. And we had about 7 to 8 thousandths clearance on the piston. So it's time, it's standard bore, and we'll be going to half millimeter, 20 thousandths. I sure appreciate whoever told me about the paper towel on the light. It sure has made a very big improvement in the being able to view the inside of these cylinders. Thanks guys, don't forget the thumbs up. Okay, there's this piston that came out of it. It really doesn't look that bad. It was having a little blow by on the sides here, probably picking up a lot of that from the seals. It was just really loose. So we're going to tighten him up. We've got a brand new Wiseco piston, one ringer, and we're going to 50, or 0.50 rather. So we've got quite a bit to go. Hopefully we can get her cleaned up. I think so. We had a lot of, looked like where screwdrivers had been used to get the cylinder off. I went through and filed that just very gently. You just want to take that edge off, you know, whatever peeled up. It looks like it'll probably still seal just fine, but you want to refrain from doing that if you can. There's a lot of other ways to do it. But we've got to have a smooth surface here, or our bore's not going to be straight. So that's the first thing you need to do. Make sure you've got all the gasket material off, any dirt that might get under it while you're setting it up to bore, and make sure that you've got that file down nice and smooth, if need be. On let's see, of course we're going to 4750 millimeter, that's our bore size. 7475 YZ80, MX80, 80 to 82, and we're going to have 2 thousandths when we get done. And our bore, if we're going to head for a target of 1.87 for a bore. Usually that's right on, but I always sneak up on it because I'm looking for the clearance more than I am the bore size. So as soon as I get to my 2 thousandths clearance, then we'll stop. But that's a target. If you need to replace the rings, I believe it's the, let me look, make sure I don't tell you wrong. All the information you need is on the box on these Wiseco. 1869 CS. Okay, so that's it right there. 1869 CS. that is the pin, the S538. CW12 is the keepers. So that's what we're after. I'm going to get the cylinder over there and get it set up and see if we can get this thing bored to size. Okay. Lock everything down right there. See if everything stays put. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay. We're good. Okay, I think we're good there. It's looking like it's pretty good. At the top anyway, it's got, we're cutting all the way around. Of course, as it gets below, it's not going to do it when you get down around the ports. So we'll run this one through and see what it looks like, see if we need to move anything. I really don't think we'll have to. Okay, it's cutting all the way around, but we've got a lot of water damage in there. You know, it's pretty much all the way around here at the top until you get down around the ports, and I've got a little void here, and that's really it. We've got a little bit of place right here around the exhaust port that's not cutting, but for the most part it's cutting all the way around, so we're good and centered. But I've got something down here that I didn't see until I started cutting this web right here, and you probably can't see it. I'm gonna have to get the other camera, but there's a crack right there in the middle of that. Let me get the other camera. Okay guys, I've got you pulled up as far as I can go, and right there is a crack in that bridge. I was wondering why my cutter stopped here and picked up again on the other side. So evidently when the cutter's coming around here, it's putting enough pressure on it that it's pushing it back. I really don't think it would ever clean up, but that's definitely a crack right there. I don't know whether these YZ80s were prone to that, but there had been a lot of water in here, and that's, you know, that's probably the weak place. And if there was water in there and it froze, that's probably what happened. You know, the water between the piston and the cylinder right there. Or you know, the piston just really got loose. It had 8,000s. You know, it might have been picking at it, but I'm going to have to get a hold of the owner of this one and see what he wants to do, because I don't think that's ever going to clean up there, and it's going to be a problem. This is sure a shame. Went and pulled it out of the milling machine. But there you can see that crack. And you can see the kind of the gap in my cutting. You know, it would be foolish to use it to start with, I think, but it's you know, I don't think it would ever come out, because when you've got a pressure on it, as the tool bit's coming around, it pushes down on it here, so it gets to a point where it's pushing it far enough away it won't cut. So then you've got a little gap, and then you start cutting again over here. So just not a good thing. I talked to the gentleman, and he is like a lot of us. He's got several cylinders laying around, spare parts, and he's going to check out a couple of the other ones he has and send them my way, and hoping that we'll be able to use the same piston. But you can see we were centered up pretty good, so it's cutting pretty much all the way around. But as you get down to the ports, of course, you know, it's just like always, that's where your wash is. And we have this right up here, the staining. This is water, and you really can't feel it, but it's there. But I think most of that would have come out, especially with a 20 thousandths over. Had quite a bit of rust there on that bottom piece. The other side not quite so bad. Okay, so we're on hold for this. All right, guys. You know, things happen like this once in a while, and you know, I'm working towards the goal of putting a video out on boring and fitting piston, and I get to a point like this where I can't proceed with that. Yeah, I could set that back and pick up on it later on, but the reality is I'm kind of behind the power curve for putting the video out. So things like this can take a couple of days, and you know, it just not going to work for me this week. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and on this same bike, we're going to go ahead and disassemble the crankshaft. So we've got the start of the boring and the crankshaft disassembly. So we'll get into that, and that should fill up the time for this week. Just, you know, it doesn't happen very often, but it did happen this week. So I've done this before and went ahead and started on something else, and that something else I ended up having to come to a hard stop on too. So then you've wasted all this time on your video for the week, and you haven't got a video. So normally what I do is I just try to piece something together, and I still want to make it interesting, you know, it's all the normal stuff I normally do when I bore or when I rebuild a crankshaft, but you're just not going to see the whole thing. But probably when I do the crankshaft build, you'll see this part again, plus all the rest of it. You know, I don't know what else to do. I guess I can just do the build, because usually that takes up just about as much time. But anyhow, we're going to just transition into the crankshaft. And like I say, I'm still waiting on a pin and a bearing for the lower end, so I can't finish it either. So we're just going to have what we have on the cylinder and what we have on the crankshaft. So I apologize, but that's the way it's got to be. So let's get to it. Okay, this is what we've got. Looks like we've had a little water. Doesn't look too bad over here. The seal area, not all that great, but that might clean up. Maybe some crocus on the lathe. You can see it's been in some water. The ends are good, and the threads are good on both ends. And I really think that the rod is probably okay, but I'm not sure. We won't know till we get there. But we've got a bearing here we've got to get off also. So we'll put the bearing splitter on here. Okay, this should just start getting under it. That is our hope anyway. Okay, starting to move. Okay, so we'll take it over to the lathe. It's under it pretty good, so we'll take it over to the press and pop it out. Okay, I've got an aluminum pusher here. I'll reach underneath here, and I've got the rod out of the way. It's toward the back. Oh, it's going to come right out. Keeping an eye on my rod back there. Okay, so we got the bearing off. We take it back up to the bench, and we've got to do some measuring first. Okay, first thing we need to do here is to check our web width. That's the overall measurement. I do have data on this one. That sounds familiar right there, 38. $37.97. Web at the pin. And let's go about 180. Okay, see that's a big difference. That this crankshaft is it's squeezed together right here. So that's causing an issue out here. It's not straight at all. So that probably was creating quite a bit of vibration. We'll call it 3767 at 180 of the pin. Okay. And the next thing I want to do is take this over to the lathe and see if we can do something about this sealing surface right here. Okay, I just got a piece of an inner tube, wrap the rod there so it doesn't flop around. Yeah, you can see how out of balance that is. That probably was shaking it pretty bad. Now we've still got some damage there. I'm not sure right where the seal goes, so you know the bearing goes up against the crankshaft, so it seals right here where that damage is, but I'm not sure exactly whether it's in between. Maybe we can have him set the seal back a little bit. Oh boy, I tell you, the water just really is a pain. Damages so much stuff. The water, it came in the cylinder. This is usually what happens. It comes in the cylinder. It can't get to here because the bearing is there, and it sets right here behind the seal and just eats this up. I don't know. Okay, we'll just put a dial indicator on here to see. And see there, it's about 16 thousandths. That's a lot, because they want you to set it up within about 2, I think, probably closer than that. So yep, that was not a smooth running machine. Okay, now this is if you remember back a few months ago, maybe close to a year, we had a GT1 or a GT80, and this is the same crankshaft. And see, there's no thrust washers here, and if this one is eat up in there, we're going to have to do the same thing. What I did was I removed the metal. I think it's a millimeter, the thickness of the thrust washers on each counterweight, and then you go ahead and put thrust washers in it. But if it's not worn, there's no need to do that. So when we pop it apart, that'll be the thing that tells us whether or not we've got to do the machine work. And he's aware of that too, but I just want you to look here now, see always look at the pin, and see this is the widest part right here. So this is down below on the casting, and it's the same over here. So the pin does fill out this complete, if this is set at 38 millimeters, it goes in and is flush on both sides, or near about. So the main thing is the 38mm width, and we can determine that and move it when we put it together. But when we're taking it apart, we're at 3797, which I'm sure that's within spec, but 180 from the pin. It's 3767, and that's nowhere close. So that would have to be adjusted. So let's go over to the press, and let's press this one apart. All right, let's see what we got here. I got the rod in the back here. It's really close to what I've got there. I don't know. We'll see what it does. Yeah, it's smaller. Boy, it doesn't look like it. Catch it down below. Not too bad, a little rust in there. And that one might be okay too. Let's go ahead and get our pin removed. Okay, let's take it up to the bench and check it out. Well, you know, I think we can use the rod if we have to. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not terrible. I really don't see water damage there. And the top is kind of like the bottom. It's, you know, you can see some little specks, but there's really not anything there that's going to cause a problem, I don't think. What happens with these, if they don't have the thrust washers, is they start wearing terribly right here along the face of these, where they match here. And you know, we see a little bit in here. But it's not bad either. We've got some over here. You know, the right thing to do would be to machine it, and you know, that's the thing right there. To machine it and, you know, get that smooth again and put your thrust washers in, so you don't really have to worry about that anymore. Thanks guys, don't forget the thumbs up. Okay, guys, I use the when I'm cleaning these up, I usually take the bead blaster and bead blast inside the holes, not this hole, not the pinhole, but all the others from both sides, because they almost always have rust in them. So I try to get that out, and like in this instance right here, I would just hit that. I'd tape these off and hit this, and maybe the end here, and up into the center, and hit that with the bead blaster. And then I take it over to a pretty fine brush on the Baldor buffer over there. Okay. So on the rod, if you'd watch the other crankshafts that I did like this, I think both of them, they were just wore almost flat. You see where this is right here? They would just be worn flat right there. Only usually on one side, but this one here is in really good shape. So it was not rubbing on any rust or anything to start with. We only had that show up after this engine had set. So we do have right here those three little spots, and this one here is a little worse over here. You can see it, but you know, I can't with good conscience put this back together like that. I'm just afraid that, you know, like I said, this rod was not in there when this was roughed up like this. So we need to go ahead and machine these halves and put the thrust washers in. If you didn't see that, the other two videos, I did two of them. We take and machine this down the thickness of the washer, 1 millimeter. Yeah, 1 millimeter, and then we still set it up at the 38 millimeter that it would be. But you can't just put the washers in. If you put these in and then tried to set this up, you're going to be at 40 millimeter, and that's not going to fit back in your crankcase. So we come in here, we take a millimeter out, and then we set it back up at the factory spec at 38 millimeter. Now, from what I can tell, 1977 up already have the washers in it. And when they did that, that's all they did, is they just machined these out and put the washers in. If you look it up online, the crankshaft part number is the same for a 1973 MX, or I think even up to like 79 or 80. It's the same one. You would just buy the crankshaft, if you could even get it, and when you did buy a new one, it would have these washers in it, and it would go ahead and fit in this model, this 75. So, you know, that's all they did. But they should have never done that. This is just ridiculous not to put thrust washers in there. You know, but it's even more ridiculous to have the water get in there. But that's what we've got. So we'll go ahead and deal with it. But I'm just afraid if I put this back together with, you know, I can feel that, and it would work on that and be like sandpaper until you just wore this down. So this is the only way that we can do this and be sure that we're not going to be doing it again. When I did this before, I made up a pin. This here's a slip pin, so I can put it all together and test it to be able to still get my measurement and still have the rod loose. So that's what we're going to do. I just don't have time to do it this week, so you'll be seeing that the next time you see a video on this machine. But we're lucky that we can use the rod, so that saves him some money. And you know, I was hoping we didn't have to do this, but I just can't do it. I can't put it together without machining it out. Just afraid of what it would do. Okay guys, there you have it. Like I say, sometimes that kind of stuff happens, and you know, you get to a point where you can't finish your video. And I've done it many times, gone over, well, I'll just go do this, and I get stuck there too, so I just can't. So I've wasted so much time that I can't get one done. So probably the best thing that I could do is always have one in sitting back in the can, but I don't right now. Usually I do, but I don't this time. So this is what we've got, and I hope you enjoy it. It's just, I mean, it's real life in the shop. That's what happens. You know, you run out of parts, you run out of, you know, you break equipment, whatever it might be. There's always something, and we all know it. So thanks for going along on the ride, and we'll see you next video.